What's going on, guys? This is Miasin, and today I actually wanted to make a video on what I personally believe are the 3 best hand traps of this format, and why are they that good. So before you start, friendly reminder to like and subscribe. Please, motivates me so much to keep making videos like these. If this video can get to maybe, let's say, 800 likes, I'm actually gonna make a super poly video as soon as I possibly can. So what are the best super poly targets that you can play this format, and which kind of decks can use super poly? Now we're actually going to be talking about hand traps though, so let's get right into it. Alright, so there are a lot of hand traps that historically have been good only for a few formats and then were bad for so many formats after that. But now there are a lot of hand traps that are just kind of stabilizing as always being good. And some of them you might actually recognize, for example, Ash. And that's the reason why I'm not going to talk about Ash too much. It's simply because everybody has been playing Ash for so long. Everybody knows what it does. Ghost Belle even is just gaining in popularity because there are new cards that always need to use the graveyard, like Ice Dragon's Prison, Scarlet Sanguine for the Eldritch deck, Shard Brigade Revolt. But apart from that, Ghost Belle's not necessarily the highest impact powerful card. Your opponent can just flip the Shaddoll Schism, not use its effect right away, and then maybe on resolution or after that he could use the effect. If you Ghost Belle, the Shaddoll Schism doesn't get sent to the graveyard, unfortunately. So that's one thing that Ghost Belle just sadly lacks. So the first one I want to say that I feel is just mandatory this format. I think if you're not playing this hand trap, you're doing something wrong, unless you're playing like a weird deck that shouldn't play this card. But it is Fantasma. Fantasma is so good because it's not really a card that really situational for the most part. If your opponent link summons, you can use it and then go +1 because you're drawing 2 cards and then you're putting back 1. The draw 2 already matters, and putting back 1 can even help you sometimes by putting back Garnets. See it, you kind of try to look at it as a Saryuja during your opponent's turn. Nothing can go wrong by using Fantasma outside of maybe your opponent randomly being able to use Tactic Talents now. I don't think that's necessarily the biggest of your issues. If you're playing hand traps, well, you're already making yourself open to getting hit by TTT. And also, if you're playing other cards, like maybe if you're not even playing any hand traps like trap cards, like Dogmatica Punishment, if you send something like an Entis, that's already a monster effect on your opponent's turn. There's no way to truly play around TTT at all time, and maybe playing Fantasma is going to be the way you get that extra boost in order to beat those meta decks if you're maybe playing a Wars deck, or if you're playing just a meta deck and you want to kind of win despite you having a suboptimal hand, because Fantasma does give you that extra consistency. Not to mention that Fantasma is actually much better now. If you're playing against a deck like Sky Striker, the deck needs to link summon every single turn. So if you Fantasma into Fantasma, honestly, don't even shuffle back the Fantasma. I know it might sound weird because it's kind of like a redundant card, but try to think long term. Your opponent, you know for a fact that he's going to link summon next turn, so just keep it in your hand and then summon Fantasma next turn. And if your opponent tries to Widow Anchor to steal your Fantasma, remember that Fantasma has a neat, really cool second effect where you can negate any card or effect that would target a monster on your field by discarding 1 card. Fantasma is much better now. It's really good against Sky Striker, it's really good against Salamangreat, it's good against Invoked, Prank Kids, even against Drytron. It doesn't have any bad matchups, honestly. DD Crow is a bomb, another hand trap that you absolutely have to play. DD Crow is a level 1 monster, so you can make Relinquished Anima. It's a winged beast monster, so you can search it with Shireg. Now, if you're playing Shard Brigade, you absolutely have to play DD Crow. It's no longer a question, because if you can search that DD Crow and use it against Sky Striker and make them lose their 1 of Engage, it acts as a double hand trap in a way, because not only is it a Veiler for the Kigari, try to think of it this way, but also you're permanently making your opponent lose a resource until the end of the duel. So you're not just slowing down your opponent, you're really doing so much more than that. Much better than a Veiler. Really good against Drytron, for example. You can stop the Benten before it gets the effect to actually search. If it is tributed as a cost and you can chain DD Crow, it is no longer in the same trigger location, so it won't be able to activate. That's something that I've learned the hard way, by the way. And it's good against a bunch of other decks. Invoked, for example, when they use their own vocation, you can chain DD Crow, banish the Alistair, and now they have to fuse by using from the hand. Finally, the 3rd best hand trap is a hand trap that people have been playing for a while anyways, and I think this is Drool and Logbird. Drool is interesting because in theory, you might actually think that the card actually got a bit worse. Dragon Link doesn't really lose that hard to Drool if you kind of know what you're doing. If you use Drool against Sky Striker incorrectly, you're literally not even making him lose a single card in resources or advantage. And the reason for that is because it has a particular timing. Another cool thing about Drool is that it's not once per turn, And again, you might be thinking, well, it doesn't really matter that it's not once per turn. It only has an effect that is relevant once. Let's just say you use Drool and Lockbird, your opponent chains Called by the Grave. Drool and Lock is a quick effect and not a trigger effect, so you can use multiple in one trigger, and you'll be able to use a Drool on Chainlink 3 on top of the Called by the Grave in Chainlink 2, and your lingering effect will apply before it'll be negated. Your opponent will still be under Drool. You're also technically under Drool, but the most important thing is that you're pretty much preventing your opponent from popping off that turn. I want to say, when you're playing against Rhytron, the only way to truly feel safe is when you honestly have a card like Drool and Logbird, which can completely prevent your opponent from doing almost anything. He needs so many searches to do his combo, so there is literally a 0% chance of your opponent doing an unfair board. Yeah, sure, he can do a bit, but also he's going to be really late behind because he's going to be needing all those resources back for the next couple of turns, so his follow-up gets worse and his end board gets worse. And I want to say it is kind of the same thing against decks like Invoked. For example, if your opponent uses Nadir Servant to search the Ecclesia and you use Drool on Resolution while he sent the App Cologne won't even be able to trigger because you can, well, I mean, it will, but the App Cologne will be in Chainlink 1 and then you can Drool on Chainlink 2. So the App Cologne will not do anything and the Ecclesia is still in the hand. He can't really search. He's still under Drool. With one single Drool and Logbird, a Nadir Servant is rendered 100% useless. You definitely have to keep that in mind when you're deck building, because you might be thinking, well, it's just one card. One card cannot lose to Drool because it only searches once. Well, it searches twice and in 2 separate windows. Anyways, that's pretty much it for my top 3 best hand traps of the format. If you guys have any other cards or hand traps that you think are really good right now, please let all of us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, motivates me so much to keep making videos like these, and I will see you next time. Peace.